Add another congressional investigation into the Trump administration to an already long list. The chairman of the U.S. House Judiciary Committee believes that President Trump has clearly engaged in obstruction of justice. Congressman Jerry Nadler plans to focus on the firing of former FBI Director James Comey and the president's statement about a 2016 meeting with Russians at Trump Tower. For more, Boris Sanchez reports from the White House.
The chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler, making a statement on Sunday revealing that he is preparing to request documents from some 60 individuals and entities related to President Trump. And this gets personal. Nadler specifically said that he would be asking for documents from the president's own son, Donald Trump Jr., as well as Alan Weisselberg. He's a top executive at the Trump Organization, somebody who is believed to be intimate with the president's tax returns, something that Democrats have long pressed the president to release. Also on that list, the former chief of staff, John Kelly, as well as former White House counsel Don McGahn. So Nadler's scope is very broad. Though he was asked about impeachment on Sunday, he said it is too soon to go in that direction. Listen to this.
Impeachment is a long way down the road. We don't have the facts yet, but we're going to initiate proper investigations. It's our job to protect the rule of law. That's our core function. And to do that, we are going to initiate investigations into abuses of power, into corruption, and into obstruction of justice.
Nadler saying that he wants to make a case to the American people about impeachment before going there. I asked for the White House to respond to Nadler's request. They ultimately declined to comment. It's clear, though, that we will hear more from President Trump on this. He tweeted a pair of times on Sunday talking about Democrats going after him unfairly. But again, this is personal, and we know the president is not shy about sharing his feelings. Boris Sanchez, CNN at the White House.
Political analyst Peter Mathews joins us now from Los Angeles. Peter, good to see you again.
Good to see you, John.
Okay, here is a list of just a few of the congressional investigations which are underway right now. They're all House committees because Democrats control the lower house, Republicans control the Senate. So we just heard from Boris Sanchez about the Judiciary Committee looking into possible obstruction of justice and abuse of power. Ways and Means reportedly about to request Trump's tax returns, oversight and reform. Now looking into security clearance for Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, and has set a Monday deadline for the White House to turn over documentation. Same committee is also considering calling the Trump children, as well as Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer for the Trump Organization. That's after questioning the personal attorney for Trump, his former one, Michael Cohen, last week. We also have the Financial Services Committee looking into the president's past financial dealings, including possible money laundering. The House Intelligence Committee investigating Russian interference in the 2016 election. And look, it does go on and on and on. Well, all of these investigations could be potentially damaging to the president. It's only the House Judiciary, the latest to join the party, which can recommend impeachment. That's at least according to the Washington Post. So regardless of what the Democrat leadership may be saying about waiting for Mueller, you're not ready to go down that road of impeachment. Does this now suggest that impeachment at least is on the horizon?
It's definitely on the horizon, and it may take a little bit of time, but Mr. Nadler is very serious when he comes out and says that he believes that the president obstructed justice. That's quite unusual for him to come out and say that, but he must have some evidence. He's still investigating it with his committee to see how the president could obstruct justice. And don't forget, that's a charge that brought down President Nixon. Obstruction of justice and abuse of power as well. It's very similar in parallel here, and it's even more extensive, it seems, with President Trump when it comes to all these investigations that are going on, especially with the Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, there's also obstruction of justice for the Clinton impeachment as well. It does seem to be sort of go hand in hand, when these investigations are underway. It does look to be the start of another bad week for the president after possibly one of the worst weeks of his 2 years in office last week. On Sunday, he lashed out on Twitter at this new investigation. Presidential harassment by crazed Democrats at the highest level in the history of our country. Likewise, the most vicious and corrupt mainstream media that any president ever had to endure. Yeah, of all the investigations, they appear to have merit, though. Collectively, though, are the Democrats risking, at the least, the appearance of congressional overreach? The president can argue he's being hounded.
He's been arguing that, John, but I don't think it's an overreach, and people won't perceive it that way, most people, because the Democrats have been very cautious. Even during the campaign, the election of 2018, Nancy Pelosi came out and said, we are not going to be talking about impeachment in this election. We're going to focus on issues. It was very cautiously brought about until now. The evidence seems to be so overwhelmingly coming out at the forefront, these various things that Trump has done, and the documentation that's available, it looks like, that's going to be subpoenaed. So all of this is almost forcing the Democrats to be able to say, we have to investigate this because that's a rule of law principle. the Democratic Congress will be in dereliction of duty if it does not investigate these things toward the possible impeachment. They're not saying we're going to be impeached. They're saying we're investigating to see if there's any evidence at all that impeachment charges could be brought up. They're being still quite cautious.
I just wonder that there is so much evidence out there of at least to begin investigations into certain crimes allegedly committed by this administration. There was the old saying, if you're going to take a shot at the king, you only get one shot, so you better make it a good one. And that's kind of the theory here, why wait for Mueller. But it just seems there's so much other stuff out there. You can take plenty of shots. You know, there could be multiple shots at President Trump, and there's still much more ammunition to go.
There's so much, John. I mean, look at when he fired Comey, and he went out and bragged on NBC that he did it because of the Russia thing that was bothering him. And there were so many other things like that where he tweeted the evidence that there was corrupt intent. Corrupt intent is very important to prove obstruction of justice because it has to do with the person obstructing using his power to block an investigation that could hurt him. And it's so clear that when President Trump tweeted many of these things and explained them publicly, that there was corrupt intent there. It certainly seems that way. And I think that's what the committee is going to go after to find out whether that's clear.
Exactly. They'll also be focusing on possible obstruction of justice by the president in the Mueller investigation. Here's another Sunday tweet from the president. I am an innocent man being persecuted by some very bad, conflicted and corrupt people in a witch hunt that is illegal and should never have been allowed to start, and only because I won the election, despite this great success. A day earlier, at the annual gathering of conservatives known as CPAC, the president said this about Mueller's investigation.
All of a sudden, they're trying to take you out with bull, okay?
So 2 days, two separate examples of what the chairman of the Judiciary Committee specifically said are examples of obstruction of justice, calling it a witch hunt, questioning its credibility. But how do Democrats prove that case? How do they go from, what the president says to actual tangible evidence of obstruction of justice as a result of those words?
By getting witnesses and also by getting physical evidence of actual tweets. And people who can speak out and say this was the intent. Don't forget that they've got information or trying to get information from the various staff members of the White House who will become witnesses to how the president operated behind the scenes. And that can be evidence right there, very possibly. So they're going right down to the hardcore, solid information before making any kind of judgment on this. But I think there's a good chance this could happen.
Okay, well, I want to finish up with the Kentucky Senator, Republican Rand Paul, joining 3 other Republicans in the Senate who plan to vote with Democrats to block the president's declaration of a national emergency, which he was hoping to do and to use to fund his border wall project, which means Democrats will have the numbers in the Senate if they all stick together to stop this declaration going through. The president will then use his veto over that, which will be his first time. But still, this is a significant milestone and not a good one for the president.
It's very significant because it has to do with what we call the balance of power and checks and balances between the president and the legislative branch, the Congress. And the Congress is saying we are not going to let this president abusively use his power to declare an emergency which does not exist just so he can get money shifted around when the power to fund the government, to budget, is the Congress's power. This is a constitutional issue that they're actually going to be going up against. The Democrats in Congress and the Congress as a whole, Republicans as well, are saying we will not let this president take away Congress's power. And so therefore they're going to vote to block his declaration. Now, the 2/3 vote will be required to override the veto. That may be a difficult thing to do, but you never know because things are changing so quickly and fastly in terms of people's mind, making up their mind which way to go in Congress on this.
Yeah, when that ice starts to crack, it cracks really quickly and things do turn.
It's like the accident. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've been it. Thank you. Good to see you.
You too, John. Take care.
Cheers.